Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Logical Nonsense Podcast. Today we have Skylar Burke, a guard from UCSB. She is a fantastic player. I've been watching her play for quite some time now, coming out of Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Skylar, how are you doing today?
I'm great. Thanks for asking and excited to be here.
Awesome, awesome. So, it's funny because I was thinking about it, and we used to be neighbors. I remember there was
Yeah,
a few times you actually used to come down and ball up with me on my hoop, and
yeah.
back in the day. So it's kind of full circle moment now. Yeah, let's start with introductions. I kind of gave a terrible introduction to who you are, so how about you do it a little bit better and introduce who you are?
All right. I'm Skylar Burke. I'm going into my junior year at the University of California, Santa Barbara. I'm a guard on the women's basketball team, and I'm from Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Graduated from Coeur d'Alene High School, and yeah.
Perfect, perfect. All right. Well, let's start there since you brought up high school. You had a very decorated career at Coeur d'Alene High School. I couldn't remember the exact number of points you had. I know it was over 1,000 for sure, which is a huge feat in high school. Not every player gets to that, whether it's men's, whether it's women's, whatever the sport. That's a huge feat to get to. And I think as impressive as your offense was just as impressive as your defense. Something that I've always admired about your game. So, what does that kind of career having that kind of career at Coeur d'Alene mean to you? As well as, do you think it helped be an instrument in kind of rebooting this successful women's basketball program at Coeur d'Alene High School?
It's nice to see like your hard work and dedication kind of pay off. I just know like growing up, I was in and out of the gym every day, multiple times a day. I played multiple sports too, so it was like juggling different practices and everything. And so just to see that extra work that like you continuously put in, like play out well on on the court or field, whatever it may be, is awesome to see. Yeah, since my freshman year, I know we started to turn Coeur d'Alene around a little bit. We
Yep.
got a couple wins under our belt, and then after that, we kinda took off, and so we had a couple state championship runs my last couple years there, and that was awesome. I know we won the district title, 2 out of my 4 years, and we haven't won a district title in, like it was, like, 10 years since, like,
Yeah.
my sophomore year, something crazy like that,
Yeah.
and so it was awesome, like, to be a part of that culture change and just, like, bringing that competitiveness back to women's basketball at Coeur d'Alene and seeing and now they're on a streak, they just won 2 back-to-back
Yep.
state titles, and just to see it really take off has been, like, awesome to say I was a part of that in general.
Definitely, definitely, and that's why I brought it up. I think, when I was growing up in Coeur d'Alene, they had a great program. You
Mhm.
always heard about the women's basketball program. They won, I don't even know how many championships, state championships back in the day, and then they had a little bit of a lull, and it kind of felt like, your group you included kind of turned around the momentum and kind of got girls back into basketball, wanting to play basketball again, and just getting a good group of girls to play and be invested in the program and invested in each other. So it was really cool to see
For
that.
sure.
What do you remember about that high school team? What do you remember most about the high school team like that you've brought into basketball now?
Yeah. Well, I would say, like, any part of any successful team is kinda like the chemistry,
Yeah.
honestly, and I just remember, like, my group was so close, like, throughout
Yeah.
my 4 years. Like, I know it changes a little bit, like, you have seniors graduate and whatnot, but we had, like, a core 8 of us for my first 3
Yeah.
years-ish, give or take a couple numbers, but that were super close. We all got along, and we really just, like, knew what it took to, like, work hard, and being able to hold each other accountable is huge.
Yeah.
Avoiding drama and just knowing, like, how to take criticism well, but
Yep.
also knowing how to uplift each other on the flip side
Definitely.
is huge, and just enjoying each other's company is
Yeah.
a big thing, and because then that translate on and off the court, and then you're able to push each other on the court, and being able to compete with each other is just a huge thing for the chemistry.
Definitely. Definitely, that's a great point you bring up. I think any successful team, like, you look at the Celtics team that won this year, right? Like, they were
Yeah,
close. They had
for sure.
chemistry, right? Like,
Exactly.
every team that I feel like has won, there wasn't drama, to your point. There
Mhm.
was that chemistry, and they push each other to be better. So, definitely all great things you brought up there. So, let's go into some of your recruiting process while you were in high school as well. Always interesting hearing some of the recruiting process because it's always different for everyone. What did your recruiting process look like?
Yeah, that's kinda like the point you just made. I feel like everyone's process is completely different, but I would say I got a little bit late start to my recruiting process, and so it was, like, a little bit unconventional, but it made, like, me getting to one of my dream schools just that
Yeah.
much more special, you know?
Yep.
But I really started to focus on basketball after, like, my freshman year of high school, which I played it for a lot longer than that, but it was always a toss-up, if I wanted to play basketball or softball in
Yeah.
college. I kinda tossed between the 2 for a while, but, after my freshman year, I started to take basketball more seriously, and I played on a couple, like, pickup tournaments with a team, but I didn't really start reaching out to coaches till after my sophomore year, and I was supposed to play on an AAU team the summer before my junior year. Like, it was supposed to, like, be, like, a huge exposure summer for me,
Yep.
but then that opportunity kinda fell through, kinda complicated, but that fell through, so I ended up not having a team that whole summer, and
Yeah.
so I kind of just took that upon myself to be like, "Okay, well, now this is the summer, you're just gonna grind and
Yep.
kinda try to make a jump for this next high school season, and then see if you get another opportunity after your junior year." And so, the summer after my sophomore season, I just honestly, like, worked out, like, tirelessly and, like, every day, whether or not I could get in a gym. If I wasn't in a gym, I was at a park shooting or something like
Yep.
that, and just trying to get myself to that level that I needed to be at. And then after my high school season, my junior year, I made kind of a big jump that year, and the club coach I was supposed to play for saw some of my games and was like, "Oh, yeah, we want you on the team." And so then I actually got invited on this big club team, the Northwest Blazers, that kind of
Yep.
covered all of the Pacific Northwest area, girls from
Mhm.
all over Montana, Washington, Oregon, Idaho.
Mhm.
And I played with them the summer after my junior year, and that was when my recruitment, like, took off. I, like, reached out to some coaches in high school, but it's also hard with, like, solely high school film
Yeah.
and to, like, get get
Any
information out there, I
attention. Yeah.
guess. Yeah, for sure, for sure. And so I started on the 2nd team for, like, the 1st tournament, and then after that, I played for, like, the top team of the organization. And after we, like, went on the Under Armour circuit all of July, and after that,
Yeah.
that's when I started getting hit up by a bunch of coaches, and that was, like, an exciting feeling for sure, especially when my recruiting process was really slow in the beginning.
Yeah.
And it's kinda scary, like, not knowing if you have a lot of options, especially when
Yeah.
you look at other people, like, some people are getting recruited from middle school, you know, and so you just,
Yeah.
like, never know. But I also think that that's a huge thing to keep in mind, that it's, like, never too late and, like,
Yeah.
not to, like, compare to yourself to others because
Yeah.
everyone's process is different, but,
Yeah.
that summer before my senior year was when UCSB reached out to me, and that was I knew I wanted to go to California. I mean, to be fair, I was trying to just go anywhere with basketball
Yep.
would take me, but I knew if I could pick, I wanted to go to California, and so that was a dream school, and you can't get much closer to the beach than where my campus
Yeah.
is, so it's awesome, it's a blessing, and then so I got reached out by one of the assistants, we chatted for a while, and then got a call from the head coach. They basically offered me I took a visit there, and I actually committed on my visit that summer. So
That's
that was
awesome.
awesome. I had a couple other schools lined up, but I knew once I got there that that was where I wanted to be. And so it truthfully was a dream come true, but yeah, that was
Yeah.
kinda my process encapsulated.
Wow, what a story. I mean, like, that's
Yeah,
gotta feel so rewarding, especially after
for
not
sure.
getting that recruitment attention at first, you know? I
Yeah,
know I mentioned that I interviewed Alex Carnes, he had a very similar story. I mean, he
yeah,
he really didn't get recruited very hard until really the senior year after. So, like, his summer after his senior year when he was playing
mhm,
club ball, that was when he
yeah.
first got his first D1 offer. He was planning on going to
Wow.
community college, so
Yeah,
very interesting how the different recruiting processes work. But, like, shout out to you. Staying with
thank
the
you.
system, I mean, like, that's
For
that's
sure.
tough, especially when when it doesn't look like you might get an offer where you want to go. So, what about
Exactly.
UCSB stood out to you besides the beach? I'm just
Yeah.
kidding.
Well, one thing I really took into mind when I was, like, trying to, like, pick colleges that I wanted to or just reaching out, I wanted to be somewhere where if I could choose, I guess, but where I would enjoy my life outside of basketball
Yeah,
as much as on the court also,
yeah,
which basketball obviously was a priority because that's where you're spending most of your time with your
yep,
teammates in the gym, with your coaches,
definitely,
etcetera.
definitely.
But I think work-life balance is
Oh,
a
definitely,
big thing, and
definitely.
just because I mean, basketball is not always gonna be perfect,
Nope.
and so you gotta be able to, like, find things to engage in and to enjoy outside of that. So, obviously, the area is beautiful, and there's a bunch of things to do, so that was a big thing, but also the coaches just I could feel their want for me. Like, I know they wanted me, they appreciated my game, and just, like, that sense of, like, "Okay, I would belong." Like,
Yep.
here was huge, and then my coach actually just retired after this last season, which awesome for her. She'd been coaching for almost 40
Yeah.
years, but it is, kind of unfortunate to, like, lose the crew that recruited
Definitely,
you.
definitely.
One big shout out to her was she always recruited good people. Like, you could feel like, when I went on my visit I actually visited twice. I did it
Yeah.
unofficial and an official,
Mhm.
and both times you can just feel, like, the sense of, like, community and the connectiveness that all the girls had, and they all, like,
Definitely.
interacted with me with open arms, and so just that family feel for sure was, like, another big part of it.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, I mean,
Yeah.
that's always something to look out for, and I think, a lot of recruiting sometimes can be acting, and so it's
Mhm.
really hard to tell who's acting and who's really being their authentic self. So
Exactly.
that's awesome to hear that, you know, one
Yeah.
it was a family culture, and when you got there, it really didn't change. So that's super cool. We talked about it a little bit earlier. What does it take to be a D1 athlete? I know you talked about that grind summer. Did you have
Yeah.
partners with you? Did you have coaches with you? Like, did you have a nutrition person? Like, or did you kinda just figure it out on your own?
Honestly, most of the time, I kind of figured it out on my own. I think having the opportunity to work with other people, other coaches, or, like, have a nutritionist, I think that's, like, awesome if you have access to that. I didn't necessarily always have access to that. There
Yeah,
were times I could get in the gym with some of my teammates or some of my old coaches and whatnot, but, you can't always, and sometimes you just have to make it work, and I
yeah,
think a big thing about making a jump in your game is just consistency. If you're willing to
definitely.
consistently put in the work, even if you're getting 1% better every day, like, you're gonna make a jump eventually, like, that consistency is gonna carry you, and just having the passion to do so also is a huge thing. Like, not a lot of people are willing to do, like, the little things, and you
Yep,
just have to have that drive and motivation to continuously focus on the little things, put that work in, and everything in between. So I would say, like, the consistent work is a big thing. I think also taking care of your body. I know you mentioned, like, a nutritionist. I didn't necessarily, like, have somebody, but I did I've done, like, my research and whatnot, and,
yeah,
like, I tried to eat somewhat cleaner in high school, and,
yeah,
like, a big part of, like, growing and building muscle to even, like, be stronger
yeah,
and whatnot is, like, protein intake
very
and,
true.
like, all that different things, like, what you use to fuel your body, like, reflects on your performance, and so I
Very
d
true.
I never, like, had a strict diet, but I was always conscious of, like,
Yeah,
everything,
yeah,
because it definitely helps in the long run to, like, pay attention to that, and yeah, just it's just a grind, honestly, like, no other way to put it, so
yeah,
just, like, the commitment to everything and just taking care of yourself, rest, maybe you have to give up going out one day to, like, rest your body a little bit, just, like,
yep,
the give and take it takes to get where you wanna go with everything.
definitely. No, I like what you said about consistency because I think any athlete's been there, right? Like, there's gonna be days you wake up and you don't wanna go do it. But
Exactly.
if you have that passion in you to go to the D1 level, you have to be consistent, to your point. Did you have, like, a strict schedule by any means, or, um, like, did you have a routine or schedule that you made for yourself?
Yeah, throughout high school, I always, like, had a goal of getting up at least 100 makes a day, but one of my assistant coaches, he had a goal that we'd make 1,000 makes per week. However, we wanted to split it up, and so If it was during the school year, I'd usually shoot after school. I'd, like, go and, like, stay after and go in the
Yep.
gym, whatever. If it was summertime, I'd usually get up early, and if I could sneak into a gym, great, I'd go shoot, but if not, I would just shoot outside, and then I'd have a workout plan. Okay, how many jump shots am I making today? How
Yeah.
many threes am I making today? And I'd break that up into different scenarios, different
Yep.
workouts, like, just doing different things, having different focuses for each day.
Yeah.
I would try to lift 3 times a week, typically Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Sometimes I'd go early in the morning. I didn't necessarily have a consistent schedule. It was just more so when I could
Yeah.
get it in, but I'd make sure, like, no matter what, I'm getting my shots up, and no matter what, I'm getting my lift in. And if I have to rearrange some other things, like, I'm gonna have to rearrange some other things.
I love that. I love the attitude. I love the mindset. Determined individual for sure. So props to you.
Yeah.
Were some of the biggest surprises transitioning to college from high school? I mean, it's a big jump. Regardless, everyone I've talked to, it's just it is. It's a different game. So,
Yeah.
what were some of the biggest surprises you had from high school to college?
Yeah, for sure. I knew it was gonna be different and a grind to, like, adjust to. I would say a couple of the biggest things I had to adjust to were, A, the pace of the game.
Yeah.
I know it's a big pace change going from high school to college, and with that, there's a lot more things to pay attention to and keep in mind as you're playing, whereas, like, in high school, I had a longer leash, I could just kinda go out and hoop,
Yeah.
and same thing with AAU, like, we had a little bit of a structure, but kinda like hoop, where now I have a lot of things to think about, like, what's the play, what's the goal of the play, like, now I have to read the defense, and I have to read the
Yeah.
different levels of defense, like, it's just, like, a lot of things to think about in a faster pace,
Yep.
so just adapting to that in the beginning, just that faster pace of the game, honestly, was a big thing to adapt to, and just getting the physicality also
Yeah.
is, like, a big difference
That's
too.
what I was gonna ask you too. So I'm
Yeah,
glad you went there.
and I honestly think, like, that first summer session, my first summer session or summer training, whatever, that I went to school, I think I made a huge jump in muscle, like, just from
Yeah.
the first couple months that I was there, and you could definitely, like, see how that reflects on the court, like, it's
Yeah.
a lot different physicality, and you're playing against a lot bigger girls, honestly, like, I couldn't get to the rim the same
Yep.
as I used to in high school, and so it's like, now I have to think of different ways to score and different ways to, like,
Yep.
apply my skills to the game. So,
Yeah.
just, like, figuring out what I have that works best for me to be the most successful too.
Definitely. I like that. Adapting your game to what the new pace of play is, to the
Yeah,
physicality. Because I think something that I've definitely heard more often than not is everyone's the top-notch athlete in college now. Like, you don't
exactly.
get that big separation. It's truly just the level of talent. Like, that's the biggest difference. Like, everyone is athletic. Like,
Yeah.
that's not the difference anymore. So that's super interesting that you say that. Was there big differences, would you say, in, like, the schemes of basketball? Like, was your coach, like, a huge wizard? Was that a big learning process for you in the offense and defenses she ran? Or would you say it's not that much different from high school to college?
Yeah, each coach has their own philosophies
Yep.
that you kinda have to adapt to for sure. I would say my coach liked a little more of a structured schedule. In high school, we kind of played more of a motion type offenses
Yep.
a lot, where there wasn't a lot of rules to,
Yep.
where, my coach had a little bit more structure to it, so that was definitely
Yep.
something I needed to adapt to. And just, like, different things to look for, like, my freshman year, we honestly we played the inside a lot, like,
Yeah.
we worked around the post a lot. Then my sophomore year, we started moving more pieces around the outside, so it's just,
Yeah.
like, different feeling, different structures, I guess, and
Yeah.
then, like I said, my coach, again, unless we pushed it in, like, transition or whatnot, she
Yeah.
liked us to set up plays, and so, I had another big change was the amount of plays I had to learn. I had a
Yeah.
playbook probably, like, that thick of
Yep.
plays I had to memorize, and that was, like, another big change, like, I never had so many plays in my life to know, but so that came as a shock, but honestly, basketball's basketball at the end of the day. The
Yeah.
same basic principles apply to whatever you're going
Yep.
into, but there are, like, small, like, philosophy changes that each coach has. So there was a little bit of a change, but for the most part, basic principles, basic defensive concepts, offensive concepts, like,
Yeah.
it's all basketball, you know?
And are you running the offense right now? Like, are you point guard? Are you would you say you move back and forth between, like, shooting guard, point guard?
Yeah, I would say I move back and forth. I'm kind of like a combo guard. I probably play more off ball, as a
Yeah.
shooting guard,
A 2 guard,
but
yeah.
there were like a 2 guard, yeah, but there were a couple games here and there where I had to play point, but more often than not, I was like the shooting guard.
Okay. I just wonder that because, like, I mean, obviously, you have to know your place. I mean,
Yeah,
like you just said, you had to memorize it, but, like, you really gotta know your place if you're the point guard, because like, you
for
need to know
sure.
where everyone needs to be. You need to be here, like, you're the coach on the court, like,
Yeah,
with the
exactly.
ball, so I think that's why I asked that if it was a different mindset when you're playing the point versus off ball, so
For sure. As a in the point position, you ought to be a little more like you're the general. You ought to be a little
yeah,
more leading a little,
yep,
and the point guard's hard because, like, I mean, a lot of us on my team kind of play multiple positions, so we have to
yeah,
know a couple positions anyways. But like, if you have a position that you play mostly, you can kind of like get used to just memorizing that
yeah,
spot. The point guard's got to know all five spots. They got to
yeah,
know where
exactly,
everyone needs to be to even like set up
exactly,
plays and directing everyone where to go. You really gotta like you said, take control on the court. And so it's
yeah,
definitely a little different being the point than the two, but both are
yeah,
fun and props to point guards. I know it's a
yeah,
hard position in general. There's
yeah.
a lot on their plate with everything they do, but yeah, there is
Is
differences there.
is there one you prefer?
Honestly, I like playing the shooting guard a
Yeah,
little more than the point guard. I like the point guard. I like like, the pressure of
yep,
responsibility, honestly, but I think I personally play better off ball,
yeah,
and I'm I think I'm more of a scoring guard. I mean, I'm good at facilitating and passing, but I think I do better off ball because it gives me more opportunities to
yeah.
score, and that's kind of how my game is, so
Something about you that I kinda mentioned earlier that I've always admired about your game, you're a scrappy player. You are a hustler, you're gonna dive for balls, you're gonna take charges, and I think that's always impressive. Do you think that kinda mindset of doing the extra hustling and getting rebounds and getting jump balls, do you think that helped you get noticed by other schools, other AAU teams?
yeah, 100%. I think energy is a big factor
Yeah,
that every team needs, and I think when you do the little things like you mentioned, like playing good defense, getting the rebounds, getting jump balls, diving on the floor, like those are just like energy plays. Those are like
yep,
momentum changing plays, as my
definitely,
coach used to say. And so people who do those little things are like huge for the culture of a team. And
definitely.
like we mentioned before, like culture is like a big thing. And I think part of that was reflected in how my high school team turned out. And then also in my recruiting process for AAU in college, I think that sets players apart. I think there's obviously a level of skill and talent that you need
Yeah,
to get to those higher levels, but I think those little things make you stand out as a player, and I think that definitely is a huge part of my game and something I take pride in.
yeah,
Like,
as you should.
regardless if I'm shooting good or whatnot, maybe I'm not doing it offensively, but I know I'm gonna do the other little things that help my team. And
Definitely.
so I think for sure, I think that's a big part of my game that has helped me get to where I am right now.
Yeah, and I mean, we see it across basketball like that. Those types of players are still playing, and they're still successful in the NBA. They're still successful in the WNBA. There's a need for those types of players. I mean, I could name thousands of players, but like one that I always like to bring up, like back in the day, like Labo Cephalosha started over James Harden. There was a reason for that. It's
Mhm.
because he was a hustler. He played good defense. He was an energy guy, to your point, and teams need that for their bench, for their starters. It's something that's extremely essential in basketball and not talked about enough. So definitely a huge part of basketball. What were some of your biggest learnings going from year 1 to year 2 in college?
Yeah, so going in at year 1, it's like I mentioned before, like you're learning a whole new philosophy, a whole new system, and so I think I had a lot more to take in and trying to adapt to being on a new team and a new program and everything. And then so going into that year two, now that I had like all that under my belt and was like way more comfortable with everything, I think that gave me more room just to think less and just play, just
Yeah,
react to more, if that makes sense. And
the
so
foundation was set.
exactly, I had more of a foundation going into year two, which was huge for me. Just figuring out like where my skill set, I guess, works best essentially.
Mhm.
Like I started to get more comfortable on figuring out, okay, where can I score? What can I do that works best? Like a huge part of my game, honestly, is like my mid-range game.
Yep,
And so one thing my coach worked with me a lot is like, okay, how do you find your mid-range spots? How can you figure out like when to pull up versus getting to the rim?
yep.
Like that type of thing. And so I think that was, like, a huge learning curve for, like, year 2 was just getting comfortable in my spots, finding where I score the best, where I'm the most successful, just, like, figuring out everything more and more. And then I felt like going into year 2, like I said, since I had that foundation, I just gave me more room to grow in, like, those specific aspects instead of having to focus so much on, like, remembering plays and, like, foundation and just fitting in, you know? And so
Yeah.
I think that was an awesome transition to go through.
Yeah, it's kinda like the training wheels came off, and you were finally felt like you could be yourself because you
Yeah,
know you're fit in the offense, you know you're fit in the defense. It's just having that extra year under your belt and having the more confidence in your
exactly.
play. So that's awesome. Are you nervous about learning a new playbook, if there is a new playbook, anything like that, or are you pretty comfortable with being adaptive to that?
Anything new is always a little bit scary, like, just jumping into
Yeah.
the unknown is a little scary, but I'm really excited. We got to work out with our new coaches this spring,
Yep.
so it was nice that we got some time with them, and honestly, I'm really excited. I so far really like my coaches right now, and it is gonna be a lot learning a new system, but I think since I've been through 2 years in college, I kinda know what it's like to jump into a new system now. I think it'll be easier to adapt. I know it's gonna be a process both between my teammates and the coaches, like, figuring out each other for sure,
Yeah.
but, I'm excited. I think it's gonna be good. I'm excited to get to know my new coaches a little more and, like, work with them, and I think they're gonna be awesome, honestly. Um, like I said, we got to work with them in spring, and that went well. But it is gonna be honestly, preseason might be a little slow moving. Like, we might take us time to gel, might take us time to, like, work through things, but I think by conference play, like, we'll have a good turnout.
That's awesome. No, that's good to hear. I think it'll be interesting to see how you guys do this year. I mean, it's always, I think, kind of figuring out where everyone's at and getting on the same page. I think that's the toughest part, especially in year one. But now you're like turning the corner. You're gonna be like the veteran. You're gonna be one of the vets
Yeah.
there. How does that feel being one of the vets?
Honestly, it's kinda crazy. It's kinda crazy. I'm already halfway through college ball, like,
Yeah,
it's just flown by, but I'm excited to kinda step up, and, like, me and my new coach, if I talked about it, how I gotta kinda step up into a little bit more of, like, that leadership position, especially since I've been here the past 2 years. So anyone who's, like, transferring in or incoming freshman, like, I kinda gotta be that guy, like, that directs them a little bit more and, like, brings people together, and so it's an exciting opportunity for sure. And like I said before, like, I think pressure's a privilege, and so just knowing I gotta make that a little bit more of a jump and be a little bit more of a leader, like, that's just an exciting thing to get to work with.
definitely. All right. Well, speaking of taking a jump, what do you think? Like, what is something in your game that you would like to improve upon?
Yeah, I think something I, like, continuously like to work on is my change of pace. I think that's a big thing with the game. For one, adapting to the pace was, like,
Yep.
a big thing with my freshman year, but then now that I'm there and now that I know how to work with it, now change of pace is a huge piece of the game. I think I have a hard time, well, not a hard time, but I go 100%,
Yeah.
but sometimes you don't always need to go to 100%. That change of pace is what he's gonna throw defenders off and, like, kinda get you more
Yeah,
open on offense, so just, like, consistently, like, working on that. I think it's been a big thing for me, and I think it's definitely gotten better over the past couple of years, but with anything, there's always room for improvement.
definitely, definitely. That's an interesting point you bring up. I think an answer that not everyone is willing to admit. What so it sounds like you're definitely at you enjoy the higher pace?
Yes, for sure, for sure.
Yeah. What have you learned about, like, the slower pace, I guess?
Yeah. So, I've, like, realized, like, going 100% all the time doesn't always necessarily work anymore, especially like you mentioned, now everyone at this level is athletic and fast
Yep,
and quick, and so I think the biggest thing to be successful on offense is to be unpredictable
yep,
for the basketball world, so being able to slow down and then explode when you need to explode is how you're gonna get open, get to the rim, like, make moves and not just, like, make moves just to, like, make a bunch of moves, like, make
yeah,
moves where you're exploding out and you're gonna be successful and actually, like, create space off of it. And so being able to, like, slow down and keep yourself also on balance, because I think
yeah,
that was also another thing with me is I'd play fast all the time, but sometimes I'd catch myself getting off balance, like, I wouldn't get my feet down
yep,
on my shot or, like, just, like, little things like that.
yeah,
And so, like, slowing down a little bit and just getting myself on balance made it like, my shot click better, it made me read the floor better, just, like, little things like that.
yeah,
And so, it was just, like, making my game more smooth, essentially, was, like,
yeah,
a big piece.
definitely, definitely getting more control of what you're doing,
For
and
sure.
having a grasp on your pace, and yeah, I like that answer a lot. What do you think you bring to the team that you think is just essential and a valuable asset?
Kinda like I mentioned before is I like to take pride in bringing the energy all the time.
Definitely.
I know I can do other things. I know I can score. I take pride in my defense a lot also. That was one thing all growing up that was a huge part of my game, but I think just the energy and the hustle plays in general, are a big thing that I bring to my team, and I like I mentioned before, like, the little plays, like diving for a ball or getting jump balls and whatever, like, those really change momentums of the game, especially in a close game, and so those things are huge, and like you said, in keeping the bench engaged and the team engaged and just getting everyone else hype, I take pride in bringing that to the table.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. I knew that was coming. I knew that was coming from you. So, all right, what players let's get to some phone questions. What players so first let me preface this. Women's basketball this last year, awesome.
Yes.
Seen a ton of attention, reasonably so. We've got some really great players. It's always had great players. Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, Juju Watkins, Sabrina Ionescu at the WNBA level, and so many others, right? I'm gonna leave so many off if I keep talking. So,
Yeah.
so many great women's basketball players, great for the growth. Are there any players in the WNBA you like to model your game off of?
Yeah, in the WNBA, one player I've always loved to watch is Skylar Diggins-Smith.
Oh yeah,
We have the same
way
name, so
back.
I might be kinda biased,
Yeah.
but,
Notre
yeah,
Dame.
growing up, I've always just enjoyed watching her game from Dallas to Phoenix, and now she's on Seattle right now,
Yep,
playing with Jewell Loyd. I love her game. I think she brings that passion to the court, for one,
definitely.
and she's just a smooth player. She's fun to
Oh,
watch, she's crafty, she's smooth. She plays defense, like, she does the little things, and she's just fun to watch in general, so I really like watching her. And speaking of Seattle, her teaming up with Jewell Loyd is someone who I've also loved to watch, and I've been told that I kinda have a similar game to her,
yeah.
which is an honor to be told that,
Yeah,
but
compliment, definitely.
yes, but, so she's someone who's been awesome to watch growing up too, just for one, like I said, like, being able to work on both sides of the court is an awesome trait to have, like, she's a dog on defense and a dog on offense, and she can
Yep,
do a little bit of everything, and
yep.
so I those 2 players I've really enjoyed watching growing up.
I love the Skylar Diggins Smith answer. I've been watching her
Yeah,
forever. I mean, I remember
yes,
her in college with Notre Dame. I always admired her game. I think she's just somebody that does all the fundamentals right, and
for
she knows how
sure.
to run an offense, but to your point too, aggressive on defense. She's a great defender. She just does all the little things. So
Mhm.
great pick there. Are there players in the NBA that you model your game off of as well?
For sure. Someone who was always a big role model for me growing up was Kobe Bryant.
Yeah,
Um, Not only for his game on the court, but also his mentality, the way he attacked
yep,
everything, like, it's unmatched and on every level.
yep,
And for one, I always appreciated his mid-range game because that's always
yeah,
something I loved. I love my mid-range game, and he's a mid-range specialist. Like, he's crazy from every point of the floor, but
yeah,
he was just an amazing, player to watch. But his mindset, the passion he brought to the table is insane. The way he played every game like it was his last game, he wasn't gonna settle for losing. Like, he
yeah,
always gave it his all. He did the little things. He held his team accountable, and,
yep,
like, off the court, he knew what it takes. He put in the work, the hours of work, and he just never made excuses for the little things. And so he's, like, just mindset-wise, like, he's an awesome player to look up to, for sure.
yeah. I like what you said about the mid-range game too, because I think in a world where threes are so important, right? That's like all we
Mhm.
talk about is like, oh, can you shoot? Like, what's the 3-point shooting? Like, blah blah, right?
Yeah,
Mid-range is still very valuable,
for
especially I
sure.
think even more so in today's game because like you're expecting that three, like if you
Yeah,
can get to that mid-range game and sink it every time, like unstoppable. I mean, like
for sure.
there's so many I mean, player that I always liked growing up, Chris Paul, great mid-range
Mhm.
great mid-range shoot. That's where he lived. I mean, that was
Exactly.
his game. So I think and he was short. He was 6 foot. Like in the NBA, that's
Yeah.
short and he made it that's how he succeeded is the mid-range. So I definitely think there's still value in the mid-range shot.
For sure, and I think it goes a little underrated sometimes. Like you said, I feel like everyone nowadays 1 through 5 is stretching out the three-point
Yeah.
line, honestly, and
Yep.
obviously there's big value in the 3, and that should be something continuously worked on, and I like the progression of the game, but I think the mid-range game is definitely underrated. And, like me, I'm not super small, but I'm not tall either,
Yeah.
and so having that tool instead of trying to get to the
Yeah.
rim every time is huge. Like, especially, like, if I get to a comfortable spot, like, that's just, like, easy buckets for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it keeps the defense on their toes. Like,
Exactly.
especially in today's game, a lot of times now, you're either driving to the bucket or you're getting a 3. Like, I'm not
Exactly.
saying the mid-range game is gone, I don't wanna
Yeah,
say that, but, like, it's not as prevalent as it was in, like, the mid-2000s, right? Like,
for
it's
sure.
it's just changed, and that's okay, and, like, I think it's changed for the better probably, but, there definitely is still value in keeping the defense on their toes for sure, so
Exactly.
alright, well, a big topic, WNBA, college basketball, everywhere. Caitlin Clark, she had fantastic years at Iowa. Do you think she is the face of the WNBA?
I
It's a loaded question.
Yeah, I appreciate what she's done for women's basketball greatly. I don't know if I'd go as far as to say she's the face of the WNBA, but I definitely think she's the face of the new generation,
Yep.
and I think she'll get there for sure.
Yep.
And no matter how you think of her or like your opinion on her, you
Yep.
can't say that she's nothing short of a phenomenal basketball player.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And I think what she's the attention she's brought to women's basketball is amazing, and I don't think like, I love it. I love the attention she's brought to women's basketball. I honestly love watching her play. She's she's an awesome player, and like I said, like, yeah, I think each player has their ups and downs, like, no one's perfect, whatever. She might have some faults, but I can't you can't deny that she's an insane player, and in the next couple of years, she's gonna progress even more and make a crazy jump, and she's fun to watch. Like, you can't deny that she's fun to watch, and
Yeah.
so I think she's definitely brought a lot of attention to women's basketball that has been needed for years, honestly.
Definitely. Do you think she should have made the Olympic team?
That's a hard question. I've debated about this. It's
It's tough.
hard
It's
because
a really tough one.
it is because she's fun to watch. She'd bring the attention, and I think she could compete at that level, but it's also hard. And the WNBA is full of vets that
Yep.
have been in that shoe of playing in the Olympics before, and so I think when you just have that many experienced players, especially
Yeah.
those who've already played in the Olympics, it's just kinda hard. I know it's hard to take a rookie, and I know it shouldn't matter. It shouldn't matter if it's a rookie or a vet, but
Yeah.
I just think there was just a lot of people to choose from, and so I don't know if she should have quite made it this year, but I definitely think she'll get there for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, great answer. Very, very politically correct. I love it. Um, no, I think it's an interesting question. Definitely a lot of debates out there if she should have made it, if she shouldn't. But I think, you look at, for example, like who was our number one pick last year in the NBA, right? Victor Wembanyama. If he was an American,
Yeah.
like would he be on the US men's basketball team? I think that's a debate too, right? Like
Yeah, for
there's
sure.
similar parallels there. And so I think
Yeah,
it's a tough question when somebody is that young.
yeah,
I think she definitely could. She definitely
for
could have
sure.
the talent, and I think she has the talent. But maybe it's a maturity thing. Maybe they feel like it would bring too much. I don't know if negative attention is the right word. Maybe not. Maybe it would bring attention to her and not so much the whole team representing the
Yeah,
team. So definitely a lot of questions there. But overall, are you a fan of Caitlin Clark?
I am. I'm not gonna lie, I appreciate her game. I I know some people have a hard time, like, I know she gets in instances with a little bit of attitude, whatnot,
Yep.
and I I'm kinda quiet on the court. I don't like the I try to stay pretty level-headed, I should say, not
Yeah.
necessarily quiet, but so I'm not big when players like
Are
to
very yeah.
complain a
Yeah,
little
yeah,
on,
yeah.
like, but that aside, she's fun to watch. I love to watch her. Obviously, she's amazing. It shoots the ball like crazy.
Yep.
And so all in all, I'm a fan. And the last 2 years, like her runs in the NCAA tournament have been insane to watch.
Yeah,
And so, yeah, I'm a fan of her for sure.
definitely. Any other I would say of this newer generation that you are a big fan of?
I think Camila Cardoso out of South Carolina,
Yeah,
she's fun to watch too. I
great
know she's
answer.
more of a traditional big, but she works in there.
Oh, yeah.
She gets the job done. She kills it on the boards. Like I think she's the one who goes under the radar a little bit
Oh, definitely.
with the newer group. She's fun to watch, and Rickea Jackson is fun to watch too.
Yeah.
She's a scrappy little player, and I
Yep.
appreciate that because I feel like that's how I am, and so she's super fun to watch too.
Student of the game, I love the answers. Nothing generic out of you, I love it. Alright, thoughts on the transfer portal, and you can go in depth as you like or as not in depth as you like.
Yeah, I know there's mixed opinions about this too, but honestly, I think it's a good opportunity for college athletes. I know can take away the loyalty aspect of the
Yep.
game, but I think it's a nice opportunity for athletes because you're committing to a school in like from ages like 14 to 18. Like you're asking like young high schoolers
Yeah.
to continually enjoy a decision they made years ago, you know? And
Mhm.
so I think also a big part of college is you don't always truly know the situation you're in until you're there, truthfully.
Yep.
And so I think having the opportunity to find a better fit for yourself, I think that's awesome, to be fair. And I know like a lot of players in the past who transfer and lose a year of eligibility, like you only get 4 years in college, truthfully,
Yeah.
most of the time. I know some have the COVID year, 5th years, whatnot,
Yeah.
but you only get 4 years, so you're losing one of those years, you're down to 3, and it's just you already don't have a lot of time, truthfully.
Yeah.
And so I think the openness of the transfer portal has given good opportunities to athletes who need it.
Yeah, great points you made there. I think sort of what I was referring to earlier, acting versus authenticity. When you
Mhm.
make that choice, to your point, when you're 14 to 18 years old, you don't always know the situation you're going into. That coach wants to be your best friend because they want you to go there. When
Exactly.
you get there, you don't always know that it's gonna translate correctly.
Mhm.
So I think giving the option, while it has hurt some people, I think overall it has given opportunity to others.
Mhm. For
So,
sure.
and I mean, there's been plenty of players too who weren't getting playing time and they've transferred and, now they're getting drafted.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, and then our next hot topic in college sports always will be NIL.
Yeah, I think NIL is a great opportunity for all athletes. I don't like my thing with it is almost like why not? Like if if it's not like against the rules anymore, like why not allow an athlete to make money while they're in college? Like half
Yeah.
the time our schedules are jam packed anyways. Like there I bet you far and few have like time to even do a side job if they wanted to.
Yeah.
And so if you have the opportunity to make money by like supporting just businesses based on the fact that you play basketball for a school or like any sport in general, I think that's a huge opportunity. And I think not only does that help them, but it sets them up for life after basketball. Cause like
Yeah.
obviously not a lot of college players go pro, like select few, and
Yeah.
eventually the ball stops bouncing. And so I think like having that extra money just to set yourself up for life after, I think is an awesome opportunity
Yeah.
like given in college. And like I just read a story like the other day that one of the men's South Carolina alum just bought his dad his dream barbershop
That's cool.
after graduating because he had enough NIL money to do so. So
That's awesome, yeah.
I honestly think it's a cool opportunity. I know some people have mixed emotions about it because that adds another factor to the recruiting
Yep.
process. Like, honestly, like, the whole game has changed, but I think I think it's a a cool way to, like, set up your life and just add more to the game for college athletes, for sure.
I think it's interesting for sure. I think there's so many ways you can look at it. To your point, people do like the support, and there's some great ways to show even the smaller businesses to get their name in there and have an
Mhm,
athlete attached to it and stuff like that. I think some of the questions that still kind of linger, you guys have a lot on your plate. You're a student athlete. You go to school, you have your workout schedules and all that. Do you think it's too much to add NIL on top of everything that you're already doing?
yeah. Um, it does add more to the schedule, but I think that's more doable than if, say, like, someone needed to, like, do an extra job. Like, I know every sport's not a full
Yeah, that's
scholarship.
true. That's true.
So,
That's a
like,
good point.
I'm blessed my sport is a full scholarship,
Yep.
so I probably do better than some others, but, like, baseball and softball, like, they get broken up, and
Yep.
so I know not all everyone's in the same boat or the same length, and so I think it's just hard to gauge. It is hard, but I feel like it's definitely, like, more manageable than other things,
Yeah.
and I don't know, I feel like if you go about it correctly
Yeah.
and have the right, like, support, I think it's definitely, like, manageable.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think also too, like, to your point, like, you kind of can manage it how you want. Like, if it's getting too
Mhm.
much, like, you can pull back. Like, it's not like,
Exactly.
it's up to you how much you wanna invest in yourself and go into that process. So, and then my last question about NIL, and then we can move on. Do you think it'll get to the high school level, and what are your thoughts about it getting to the high school level?
Yeah. See, actually, I haven't really thought about that too much, but it does make it interesting because I actually had this debate with my one of my friends the other day. Is college basketball gonna basically be like the pros now? And is it gonna like completely change the scheme of the game? Because now everyone's like worried about like getting money essentially. But
Yeah.
I don't I don't think I mean, it's hard to tell where it's gonna go in the next couple years,
Yeah.
but I don't think it'll alter the game in the way that it'll not be the same entertaining principle that it always has been. And high school level wise, I know a couple high school athletes who have like have a couple local deals with like recovery shops or like that type
Yeah,
of thing. And so it's definitely interesting to see like the younger group start to like dabble in that too.
already
But
get it, yeah,
yeah, for sure. But I don't think it's a bad thing, but it's just hard to say where it's gonna go in the next couple years, you know? And
definitely.
I think it could go either way, honestly. I think that's why there's so much controversy over it, but
Yep,
I honestly think it's again, I think it's a cool opportunity, especially with people with different living situations, so
definitely. Definitely. Well, thank you for your input on the hot takes. Very well
yeah.
said. Very well said. So let's end with something that we do on this show. It's called rapid fire questions. I spit out some random questions. They should be pretty quick answers. So,
Okay.
um, what is your warm up song? Your go to warm up song?
Go to warm-up song. Um, oh my goodness. Probably something by Lil Baby. Oh, no, right now, It's Not Like Us by Kendrick Lamar, even though
Okay,
it's
great
been I
answer.
love that song.
Great answer. Yeah, it's a bop. I mean,
That's a newer one.
it's
That's
stuck
a
in
newer
everyone's
one, but
head.
yes.
Do you guys have like walkout songs?
We have, like, a playlist we kinda shuffle
Okay.
through, like, when we run
If you
out
had a walkout song to just announce yourself, what would you choose?
to just it down to me. I've always liked Me Versus Me by Moneybagg Yo.
Okay.
I think
Okay.
I think you can't go wrong with that one.
Do you have like a go-to snack before games?
I like to get, like, a protein shake or, like, a smoothie. There's a place called Blenders that we have
Yeah,
a good smoothie just so I'm not, like, too full. I don't like to be too full before games.
I respect that. I respect that. Gatorade, you get any choice in your bottle. Which one you picking? What color?
Blue. We're going blue.
Yeah. Going classic, classic blue. All
Yep.
right. What is if you're in NBA 2K, what is your mid-range rating? What would you give your mid-range?
If I'm in the game, I'm giving myself a 90 mid-range.
Ooh, I like it. I like the confidence.
It's my comfort spot,
Yeah,
so,
it's your comfort spot. I like it. What's your favorite crossover? Are we going between the legs? Are we going behind the back? Are we going classic, a little step back? What's your go-to move?
um, probably between the legs is probably the one I do most often. Um, Inside the paint, I do like to spin. I like to
Nice.
spin, but it just depends on circumstances.
Okay. What's your favorite basketball brand?
Um, I probably should say Adidas because that's what my school is,
Oh, I mean
but
like actual ball. Like
oh, actual
like
ball.
are we talking
Okay.
like Wilson
Oh,
Evolution, like the Baden
alright.
back in the day? Like which one are we talking?
My growing up, I loved the Baden. I used to love Baden. I think
Yep.
that's just the classic ball. Right now I play with the Wilson Evolution, and honestly, I think it's a pretty good ball. I honestly
Yeah.
have no complaints with it.
Yeah.
So those 2 are pretty good.
Okay. Favorite basketball shoe?
All time?
Yeah, let's go all time.
Um, One of my favorite lines all time, I was always a fan of the KDs. KDs
Nice.
I wore a lot growing up.
Specific model you have or
I liked was it the 11s? Or maybe I think it was the 9s, I think were one of my favorite pairs comfort-wise, and then right now, one of my favorite shoes is I love my Dames. I also really like my Dames because 'cause
oh,
we're Adidas, and
yep.
Dames are comfy. I believe they're Dame 6s if I'm correct,
Okay. Okay.
but yeah, those are nice.
I like it. I like it. All right. Well, I think that will conclude today. Thank you so much for coming on. It was great to hear your introspective on everything. It's so cool to see you have success at the next level, and I know you're going to continue to do good things. Hopefully, see you on the big screen, WNBA one day. So,
For sure.
yeah, thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Hunter, and I appreciate you having me.
Absolutely.